All right. So this is the assignment that we do have. The first assignment actually, cost accounting. Okay. The due date is in June 2025. Yeah, 2025. So what you are required of doing is to do the following, right? You are expected of doing the following. You are to answer these questions. You know, there is this first part of the question which comes from the topic called overhead costing, the costing of overheads. And the second part of the question comes from financial statements again. So what you're going to do is we're going to start going through overhead costing together. You know, the due date is in June. We will begin by learning, not just going straight to answering this. Ideally, we want to teach so that you can even manage to answer this question, attempt this question at your own time. You should be able to answer the question. Okay? I want us to start looking at overhead costs. Overhead costs. Want to do overhead costing. Now you have to pay attention. This topic always comes in an exam. It is always examined, right? The costing of overheads. How do you cost overheads? That's science, okay? Okay, let's get started. Oh, Mr. Bernard, you're welcome to the conversation, right? Enjoy the session and please ask the questions where you're not clear.
I thank you, sir. How are you?
No, we are good. The objective is that at the end of this, you should be able to explain the reasons as to why we use absorption costing. You should be able to describe the process of allocation, apportionment, and reapportionment, and actually how to calculate absorption rates. You should be able to calculate the cost using absorption costing methods, and they know how to calculate the under and over absorption costs, and finally describe and apply these methods as we charge, you know, the administration overheads. That's what you are supposed to do. Now, your question is, what do you mean by overheads? Overheads basically refers to the cost that is incurred in making a product, any cost that is incurred in providing a service, any cost that is incurred in running a department, but cannot be traced directly and in full to the product, to the service, or to the department. I'll repeat. The overhead costs are basically indirect costs. Okay? The overhead costs are generally indirect what? Indirect costs. And your question is, what are indirect costs? Indirect costs are any costs, colleagues, that you cannot see, that are incurred when you're trying to make a product, when you're providing a service, when maybe you're running a department. But those costs, you cannot trace them directly to a full product. You can't trace those costs to a service. or even to a department, they are not traceable. Why? Because they are indirect. Okay. So in other words, when we say overhead costs, we are referring to indirect material costs, indirect labor costs, and indirect expenses. When you put all the indirect costs, you produce what we call overheads. So overheads is basically a collective term referring to all the indirect costs. Any questions? You have known what overheads are, right? The indirect costs, basically. Now, I want you to follow nicely so that when we start solving the questions, you are understanding what we are doing. I said that the indirect costs can be material, labor, or expenses. And you can further classify them as production indirect costs. Those are those that take place in the factory. We call them factory overheads. They are basically the overheads that are used to do what? Used in the process of production, right? You also have administration overheads. Yes, the administration overheads and the selling and distribution overheads. The selling and distribution overheads take place outside the factory. So therefore, they are non-factory overheads. Now, we say that production overheads represent all the indirect materials, all the indirect wages, and the indirect expenses that are attributable to the production, right? Or all those services, the service activities associated with the production process. Whatever cost you incur around that, it is said to be a production overhead. Okay? So, why should we talk about overheads? The conversation around overhead costing is a very giant conversation. It's a big one. Why? This is because the overheads are very difficult to measure. They are not easily measured because you can't trace them direct to a specific product or a specific service. So you need to learn how you measure them. For example, in production, what are examples of overheads? You could have fuel that is used in production, the cost that you incur on fuel, protective clothing, right, in production, depreciation costs that takes place in the production, and supervision of the people that work in the factory. All those are examples, but not really limited to these. There are many more other examples. When it comes to the costs, the services, it could be the cost of operating non-production departments within the factory, such as maybe the material handling, production control, canteen, securities, right? Like security guards. For example, there are those security companies that send guards to guard your buildings, your items, your assets, yeah? So that is that. So the general overheads such as factory, rent, the rent that you pay for the factory, for the entire factory, the cost that you pay to heat maybe water, the cost that you pay when you're lighting, putting bulbs, the lighting of the bulbs, They are lighting the entire factory, the entire building. The production management salaries, the salaries of those people who are doing management, all those are examples of indirect costs or overhead costs. Okay? They cannot be traced to a very specific product, a very specific, service. Now, in your assignment, there is a question asking you to explain the process of overhead allocation and what it is. Overhead allocation is basically that process by which the whole cost item is actually charged directly to the cost unit or the cost center. Your question is, what do you mean by cost unit or cost center? Allocation, like allocating all the costs, we're just getting this cost and allocate it to a certain cost unit that could either be a department, okay, or any specific product. That is what we are doing. That is the process of allocation. I'll give you a practical example, don't worry, very soon. Just follow nicely. Then there is also apportionment. The costs apportioned. The cost has been allocated, then it needs to be apportioned. Now, apportioning is basically a process of sharing out the general overhead costs to beneficial cost centers on fair basis, such as follow. I'll explain again. Allocation, you are just trying to allocate the costs to specific cost centers or cost units, right? But you're trying to get the same cost to specific centers or cost centers is what you're. Okay. Rent, for example. And this you have to remember, because when you'll be answering that assignment, you need to remember these, right? The basis of apportionment. For example, rent. Listen, let me give you an example of Unza. Imagine Unza we are renting, like the whole university, this land where there is Unza was being a rented place. Now, Unza inside, listen carefully, Unza has different schools inside, isn't it? There is the School of Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, School of Natural Sciences, School of Agricultural Sciences, School of Veterinary Medicine, School of, Health Sciences. Okay, there are many schools in Unza. That's the message we are sending. They all have buildings, School of Engineering as well, School of Law. They have buildings on the same piece of land. Now listen carefully. Imagine Unza was receiving the bill from the landlords. Let's say maybe for the sake of the argument of simplicity, let's say 100,000 kwacha. This is how much they are paying for rentals. What do you think is the best way of sharing this 100,000? Okay, sharing it by different schools, because we understand that these different schools, they occupy different sizes of the same land. There are some schools that occupy very big spaces. For example, the School of Humanities, maybe School of Education. Okay, they are occupying different spaces, these offices, like the sizes. So what could be the best way of allocating this 100,000? Okay, that basis is what you call the basis of apportionment. This you have to remember, the basis of apportionment, the most appropriate. How can we share the 100? We can use the floor area occupied by each cost center or by each department or each school in this case. If the total area occupied by UNZA maybe it's 4,000 square meters, right? You're following, right? That's the total area. Then let's say School of Education is occupying 1,000, right? Maybe Humanities is occupying 500. I'll just use the 3 schools for you to understand it. There are many other, you can do the same even if the schools are 13 or more than that. School of Engineering, occupying 100 to 400. How do you show you? Before I go any further, are you able to hear me either? Hello? Confirm you are able to hear me clearly. This one you need it. Are you hearing me? Can you see the screen? Anyone can easily confirm that they are able to hear me and can easily see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So if we want to see how much should the education contribute, it shall be the area that they are occupying, which is 1,000, divided by the total area occupied by UNZA times the rent, 100,000. Is that clear? Right? Is that clear? So you say, what will be the amount? How much will the School of Education contribute? 1,000 divided by 4,000 is what? Is 0.25 times the 100,000. How much?
25,000.
25,000. Thank you. Let's go to Humanities. Humanities will contribute, you just say 500 over total area space that they occupy. Is what? 4,000 times 100. What do we get even now? This, that goes, and 4 into 100 is what?
12,500.
So I'm not getting anything.
12,500.
Someone is not getting anything. Hello, you mean I am not, the sound is not clear, or maybe you need some clarity?
I'm not getting anything. I can see them.
You can't get the sound.
Yes, I'm able to see the screen. I'm seeing the write-ups, but it keeps on breaking. The sound keeps on breaking.
Oh, that's sad. Is it the same case with everybody? Can we ascertain where the challenge is?
I don't know.
Is there anyone else experiencing the same?
If I'm the only one.
It's same on my end. I can't get anything.
Is there any improvement? Hello, I am here now. Can you confirm if there is any improvement? Hello? Are we any better?
So I think on my end I can get you properly.
Thank you.
Same with me here.
Yeah, so let's see here now from Leah. Are you still experiencing the same challenge?
I can hear you now.
Oh,
I think now we are good to
I'll
go.
repeat what I was saying.
Oh, I really appreciate
I was
that.
saying, imagine Unza has a landlord. Okay, they give them the invoice of 100,000. All right. Out of the invoice of 100,000, Unza has got, let's just for simplicity's sake, assume there are 3 schools occupying the total area space of 4,000, right? School of Education is occupying, out of 4,000, they're just occupying what? 1,000. Humanities, they are just occupying 500. And the engineering, they're occupying 2,500. Are we good up to there? The question is,
sir.
how best can they share this 100,000? How can the Unza management share this cost with different schools? How much should each school contribute? It will be based on the area space that they are occupying. So it will be for education, 1,000 divided by the total area we are occupying as a school, as the entire university, multiplied by 100,000, which is the cost. That gives you 25,000, right? So education will contribute 25,000 to this total. Very good. Hello? Oh, are we touching again? Hello? Then for him to be multiplied by, 100,000. How much do they pay? Going to that's 25 times 500. How much is that? Hello?
Yes, sir. Just repeat your question.
How much does it give us when you divide 500 by 4,000 and 100,000? How much will humanities contribute?
12,500.
12,500?
Yes.
Okay. Then engineering, it will be 2,500 divided by 4,000. How much are they contributing this to the total rent?
This they'll contribute the 2,500.
Say 2,500 divided by 4,000 times 100,000. We are sharing this 100,000. How much are they supposed to contribute?
62,500.
62. Like this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you add these three,
you said 2,500.
yeah. So when you add these three, they should give you 100,000. Okay, that is how they would share the rent. According to which basis? According to the floor area space. Is that you use the floor area space. So can you top up the area, total area space that is occupied after doing the allocation like the way it's said? Those based on depreciation of buildings. Those are the common ones where you could use the floor area space. Okay? This is very important because if you don't get the right basis of apportionment, you get the wrong. You have so many bases of apportionment, you need to choose the most appropriate. Okay. But when you have overhead of depreciation and insurance of equipment, you can be using the cost or the book value of the equipment. Use the book value of the equipment as the basis of apportionment. But for the overhead, such as the personnel office, the canteen, wages, the cost offices, first aid, among others, you can use number of employees, all right, or the labor hours that they have worked in each cost center. Those are the two most appropriate. Any of them, if the cost that you are allocating falls under any of these, you should use those as the most appropriate basis of apportionment. If it's about heating and lighting, then you can use the volume space. Volume space, if you have that basis of apportionment, please, it is the most appropriate to allocate this overhead. Okay. So, what message are we sending? Please, there are different overheads, indirect costs that we have, all right? As a factory, you could have canteen, you know. Those people who are working in the canteen, they are not really, it's not really direct labor cost. As long as the company is not there as a canteen, like that's their business. No. For example, UNZA is there to teach and train, but they have canteens, right? There's that UNZA cafeteria and those canteens, whatever. Those are just supporting, you know, departments. The cost that is incurred around that, those are indirect costs. They are not direct, right? That's very important. So the science of allocating these indirect costs to specific departments of cost center is what you call apportionment. Now, today, I will spend much time, I have spent much time to talk about only the basis of apportionment. I want the basis of apportionment to sing only. So that when we come to this example to apply the knowledge here, right? On this example, you'll be good as so. For example, you know, revising before getting depreciation of factory, depreciation of the factory, the whole factory, the building. What's the most appropriate basis of apportionment? How can you apportion these amounts? I can't remember yet. So this is what we were talking about. So depreciation of buildings, you use the floor area space. Okay. So we would allocate this amount based on the what? On the area space occupied by the departments. Look at the departments that we have. We have 4 departments, right? Hello? Department A, B, X, Y. There are 4 departments. So we want to know how much will go to A. You just say, first of all, you have to find the denominator by adding this. Add 1200 plus 16 plus 800 plus 400. You add this. What is the total? I just want to give you an example so that you are fine. What's the total?
So I think you should give us a 4,000.
4,000 again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's 4,000. So if you want for department
for me,
A,
I'm getting
you say
4,600.
4,600. Someone else?
Because I've just added 1,200 plus 16 plus 800 plus 1,000.
Plus 400.
I don't know if they are correct numbers.
It's not 1,000.
It's 400.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So if it's 400, meaning that we are getting 4,200.
No. 4,000 plus 1,600 is a 2,000. You add 1,200 and 800 to give you another 2,000. It comes for 4,000.
It's 4,000, sir.
Yeah. Okay. 4,000. How much goes to department A? It will be 1, 2 for department A divided by what? See?
4,000.
That 4,000 times the amount that you are allocating. Is that clear? The amount that you are allocating here on top, the depreciation. You're following the process of allocation, of apportionment.
Just repeat yourself, sir. You are breaking.
This will be how much? 300, yeah? It will be 300, isn't it? The line is cutting. Is that the case with everybody? Hello, is that the case with everybody?
Yes, even on my part, sir. I think that's what's been happening. You're cutting at times.
Okay, but is there any improvements now? Network is becoming challenging nowadays. I don't know. Is there any improvement?
Yeah, breaking.
Oh.
From my side, you're still breaking.
Okay. Is there any improvement now?
You're still breaking, sir. I don't know about others.
It's still cutting. What do we do now? Hello?
Sir, send us a recording. We are breaking big time.
Yeah, the class is almost ending, though. Can you hear me?
For me, I really wanted to know how to apportion the correct basis of apportionment. I think when you help me with this, I think I'm good to go.
Okay. How is it now? Hello? Any change?
You're still breaking, sir. I don't know about others.
I think I can get you on my part.
Yeah, are you saying that it's getting better from the other side? Okay, don't worry, you'll be fine. I'll send the recording as well, So you have the 300. You want to go for department B, you just say 1/6, divided by 4,000 times the amount that you are allocating in the similar manner. So that's the whole idea behind all this. Okay?
Where have we gotten the 300, sir?
Good question. Like we are using the floor area space, isn't it? You calculate the total floor area space is 4,000,
So
right?
in the yes.
Yes. So we want to allocate to department A. So you just say the floor area space for department A is 1, 2 times what are we allocating? We are allocating the depreciation, this amount. So you multiply by 1,000. That gives you 300 to department A. You've got it? So when you want to do for department B, you say 1/6 divided by 4,000 multiplied by 1,000 as well. That should give you another amount. Okay? Any question? So there is nothing much that you should panic about. The only message we are sending here is that the overheads need to be apportioned using the correct basis of apportionment. That is the message to take home.